Ruby Franke is a former family-oriented YouTuber known by the channel name 8 Passengers, where she documented her daily life raising 6 children with her husband, Kevin, offering a curated image of faith, discipline, and tight-knit family values. With over 2.5 million subscribers at its peak, viewers were drawn in by what appeared to be a picturesque, morally grounded household, one that stood in contrast to the chaos of modern parenting. Everything seemed fine at face value, an idealistic, domesticated life for some, but something much darker was lurking under the surface, and the veil of their perfect life would suddenly be pulled away. On August 30th, 2023, Franke was arrested in Ivins, Utah, after her 12-year-old son escaped from the home of her business partner, Jody Hildebrandt, in a state of extreme malnourishment and visible injuries. The boy, emaciated, with open wounds secured with makeshift bandages, ran to a neighbor's home and pleaded for food and water, setting off a criminal investigation that would reveal one of the most shocking cases of child abuse ever linked to a YouTube personality. Franke had been collaborating with Hildebrandt, a licensed therapist and founder of the controversial life coaching program Connections, which advocated for extreme discipline under the guise of emotional accountability. Together, the two women created parenting content that often veered into unsettling territory, including endorsing isolation and punitive tactics as tools for growth. According to the Washington County court documents, both women were charged with 6 felony counts of aggravated child abuse. The abuse included starvation, physical restraint using ropes, forced isolation, and psychological torment. Franke's own daughter later testified that the children were regularly denied food for days and made to sleep on the floor without blankets or access to bathrooms. On December 27, 2023, Hildebrandt pleaded guilty to 4 counts of aggravated child abuse. Shortly thereafter, Franke followed suit. In early 2024, Franke was sentenced to 4 consecutive prison terms of 1 to 15 years each, meaning she faces a potential maximum sentence of 30 years behind bars. The judge noted that the punishments fit not just the severity of the physical abuse, but the long-term emotional harm inflicted under the pretense of moral righteousness. Franke's fall from grace is a chilling example of how social media masks and sometimes enables deep dysfunction. Her case serves as a reminder that the most curated lives online may be hiding the darkest realities offline. Josh Duggar, once a familiar face in American households thanks to his family's hit TLC show 19 Kids and Counting, is now serving over a decade in federal prison for crimes that shocked even his most loyal supporters. While Duggar's fame was primarily built on television, he maintained a digital presence through family-related content online, including appearances in YouTube videos that further shaped the image of a wholesome, tightly knit Christian household. But behind that image, a much darker reality lurked. Josh Duggar rose to public prominence as the eldest child of the Duggar family, whose ultra-conservative values and massive household became a fascination for viewers of the TLC series. The family promoted abstinence, modesty, religious purity, and traditional values, principles that Josh often spoke about both on and off camera. But in 2015, Duggar's clean-cut persona began to unravel. That year, reports surfaced that he had molested several underage girls, including some of his sisters, when he was a teenager. Though no charges were filed at the time due to the statute of limitations, the revelation led to the cancellation of 19 Kids and Counting. Duggar publicly admitted to the abuse and to having an addiction to pornography alongside a cheating scandal involving the Ashley Madison data breach. The damage to his public reputation was swift and severe. But in 2021, Duggar was arrested on far more serious charges: possession and receipt of child sexual abuse material. Federal investigators found dozens of explicit images and videos involving minors on Duggar's work computer at a used car dealership he owned in Arkansas. The content was described by law enforcement officials as among the worst they had ever seen. The evidence included digital tracking, software installed to bypass monitoring systems, and direct downloads of material from known CSAM sources. Despite his legal team's efforts to suppress the evidence, the case proceeded to trial. In December 2021, Josh Duggar was found guilty on both counts. The court sentenced him to 151 months, just over 12 and a half years, in federal prison. He is currently incarcerated at FCIC Goville, a low-security federal facility in Texas known for housing sex offenders. His projected release date is October 2032, barring any sentence reductions for good behavior.
Josh Duggar's fall was particularly jarring given his role as a spokesperson for purity culture and family values. His wife, Anna Duggar, has remained publicly supportive, though much of the Duggar family has since distanced themselves. TLC has permanently canceled any spin-offs or related programming, and the Duggar name has been largely scrubbed from its family-friendly brand. Though his YouTube presence was not as prominent as others on this list, Duggar's inclusion in the digital content space and the way he used it to shape public perception makes his story a critical part of any discussion about the intersection of online influence, hypocrisy, and criminal behavior. In an era where content creators and reality stars often become role models by default, Duggar's case highlights the importance of skepticism, accountability, and vigilance. His conviction is a chilling reminder that public personas, especially those built on righteousness or moral superiority, can be the most deceiving. Vitaly Zadorvetsky, once one of YouTube's most polarizing pranksters, has seen a dramatic fall from grace, one that now finds him facing the very real possibility of spending the next 2 decades behind bars in the Philippines. Better known by his YouTube handle Vitaly's TV, Zadorvetsky, the Russian-born YouTuber, rose to fame in the early 2010s with a mix of outrageous public pranks, social experiments, and over-the-top antics. At the peak of his career, his channel boasted millions of subscribers and billions of views. He began veering away from scripted skits and into chaotic, often aggressive live streams, chasing shock value at all costs. But over time, the pranks became more extreme, and so did Vitaly's behavior. Vitaly's increasingly unhinged behavior eventually boiled over horrifically. After getting arrested in 2020 after ingesting, according to Vitaly, 60 grams of magic mushrooms and subsequently brutally assaulting an unsuspecting female jogger in Miami. Vitaly would approach her in his delirious state, hands out as if he were attempting to hug her, but then he blocked her path, straddled her, and punched her in the face and chest, causing a laceration above her eye that required stitches. Vitaly would be arrested for this incident and spend multiple days in jail before being released on a $7,500 bond. Eventually, the felony charges against Vitaly for the attack would be dismissed, and he would eventually fade into obscurity, as is the fate for many other YouTube pranksters. After a few years out of the limelight, however, Vitaly made a less than welcome return to the internet, where he resumed his prank videos for his channel. While the internet wasn't exactly forgetting Vitaly's past crimes, it was beginning to move on, until familiar cracks in his personality reemerged and his behavior once again grew increasingly erratic. That descent reached a boiling point in 2025 during a trip to Southeast Asia. In early 2025, while filming a live-streamed series of raw, uncensored videos across Manila, Philippines, Zadorvetsky became the center of multiple public disturbances that escalated far beyond his typical pranks. According to reports from local news and eyewitness accounts, Vitaly was arrested after stealing a police motorcycle from a parked unit in broad daylight, brandishing a stolen firearm, allegedly taken from an unattended officer's bag, harassing civilians and law enforcement officers during live streams, including shouting obscenities, entering private property, and provoking confrontations, causing mass disturbances in shopping centers and public transportation hubs, often under the guise of social experiments. The Philippines has extremely strict laws regarding public order, theft, and the misuse of firearms. As a result, Vitaly was hit with multiple felony charges, including theft of government property, unlawful possession of a firearm, public disturbance, and criminal harassment. He now faces a maximum sentence of up to 24 years in prison if convicted on all counts.
Vitaly's legal team has reportedly attempted to negotiate a deal with Philippine authorities. Still, insiders suggest that his disrespect toward law enforcement and blatant disregard for local customs have made leniency unlikely. Unlike in the U.S., where such antics are often brushed off as minor offenses, Southeast Asian countries take public order violations seriously, and Zorovetsky's foreign status may work against him in court. His social media accounts have been inactive since his arrest, and close collaborators have publicly distanced themselves, citing irreconcilable differences and a pattern of dangerous behavior. Vitaly Zorovetsky's story serves as a stark reminder of how quickly internet fame can unravel when it crosses cultural and legal boundaries. What may pass as edgy content in one country can land you in prison in another. In the age of live-streamed clout chasing, the line between performance and crime has never been thinner. For now, Vitaly awaits trial in a Manila detention center with no clear sign from the inside what his fate in the notoriously dangerous jail will be. No camera, no followers, and no way out. Jeremy DeWitt might be the most infamous fake cop in internet history, known for uploading videos of his funeral escort services in Florida. DeWitt built a strange cult following online, partly because of the outlandish way he presented himself, and partly because of how brazenly he broke the law while doing so. With his heavily modified motorcycle, police-style uniform, and flashing lights, DeWitt blurred the line between private citizen and public authority until the law caught up with him. DeWitt became a viral figure after footage of his funeral escort business, Metro State Special Services, began circulating online. The videos, many filmed from body cams he wore during his escorts, showed him weaving through traffic, blocking intersections, and yelling at drivers while dressed in an outfit nearly identical to a police officer's. Even though he was running a private business, DeWitt styled himself like law enforcement down to the details: black tactical gear, duty belts, and vehicles decked out with sirens and flashing lights. At first, many viewers mistook him for a real cop. But as videos spread across YouTube and police reports followed, the truth became impossible to ignore. Jeremy DeWitt, while not in fact being a law enforcement officer, was pretending to be one, repeatedly. DeWitt's crimes go far beyond cosplay gone too far. Over the years, he racked up a wide variety of charges, including impersonating a law enforcement officer, multiple counts, insurance fraud, failure to register as a sex offender, unlawful use of police-style equipment, obstruction of justice. Despite numerous arrests and short stints behind bars, DeWitt seemed addicted to the con. Even while under investigation, he continued to operate his business and film his antics, often uploading the evidence himself. In November 2024, Florida authorities finally handed down a serious sentence, nearly 7 years in state prison. But DeWitt's legal troubles didn't stop there. In January 2025, he was also sentenced to an additional 41 months in federal prison for separate but related offenses involving filing false tax returns. What made Jeremy DeWitt's story particularly compelling was how thoroughly he documented his crimes. In a bizarre twist, many of the videos used against him in court came directly from his own GoPro cameras or were posted by independent channels analyzing his behavior.
YouTube became both his platform for attention and the evidence that ultimately led to his downfall. In interviews and court appearances, DeWitt often claimed he was misunderstood, that his services were legal, and he was simply trying to ensure funeral processions operated safely. But prosecutors and police argued otherwise, pointing out his clear intent to deceive the public and consistently overstep legal boundaries. DeWitt's case is a striking example of what happens when ego, power fantasies, and the reach of social media collide. His online presence gave him notoriety, but also scrutiny. And as the footage piled up, so did the charges. What might have started as a gray area between public safety and private security became, in the eyes of the law, a dangerous charade with real consequences. Now serving back-to-back state and federal sentences, DeWitt's YouTube stardom has turned to infamy. His name has become synonymous with the phrase police impersonator, and his downfall serves as a cautionary tale for others who think a uniform and a camera make them untouchable. Austin Jones rose to internet fame in the late 2000s and early 2010s with his a cappella covers and emotional pop-punk renditions of bands like My Chemical Romance and Panic at the Disco, gaining millions of views and a large, primarily teenage, fan base. His wholesome persona and boy-next-door appeal made him a regular on YouTube's trending page and an idol for many young viewers. But behind the curated image was a disturbing pattern of manipulation that would eventually land him in federal prison. According to the police report, in 2017, Jones, then 24 years old, was arrested and charged with multiple counts of child exploitation after it was revealed that he had used his online presence to coerce underage fans into sending him sexually explicit videos. According to court records, he targeted girls as young as 14, pressuring them to perform inappropriate acts on camera to prove their devotion to him as fans. In some instances, Jones framed the requests as a bizarre loyalty test. In others, he falsely claimed he could help the victims build modeling careers or grow their social media followings, particularly on Instagram. The FBI found dozens of explicit videos on his devices, many of which were produced under coercion and false pretenses. On February 1, 2019, Jones eventually pleaded guilty to a federal child pornography charge and admitted enticing several underage girls, many as young as 14 years old, to produce sexually explicit videos of themselves. U.S. District Judge John Z. Lee sentenced Jones to 10 years in federal prison, stating that his actions represented a profound abuse of trust and influence. The sentence fell within the federal guidelines, between a mandatory minimum of 5 years and a maximum of 20, and served as a stark reminder that even digital celebrities are not above the law. Jones is currently serving his sentence at a federal correctional facility and will be required to register as a sex offender upon release.